Ladies and gentlemen, New York Sun, Bondi reverses course, saying there's new information about Epp. We'll just call him Jeffrey Epp, after asserting just months ago that the investigation was over. Attorney General now has an ongoing criminal probe, almost certainly. Why is this important? You will hear all the analysis on the new emails and revelations in a second. Hit subscribe to this channel. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right after this. Subscribe there as well. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen. Really quickly, the money trail points to Democrats, $139,000. He gave money. Epp gave $139,000 to Democrats, only $18,000 to Republicans. But he gave $77,000 to John Kerry, Richard Gebhardt, Chris Dodd, other people. He not only gave $139,000, but money to one congressional Democrat who was caught texting him, literally texting him. Then you have Hakeem Jeffries, who is linked to the solicitation of campaign funds from Jeffrey Epp. So he's implicated in an email where his campaign is allegedly asking Jeffrey Epp for money. Why is this important? Because Jeffrey Epp gave to Hillary Clinton $20,000. So why is he giving to Hillary Clinton and Democrats? John Kerry, he's doing that for political favors. He's doing that for political or protection. He wants very powerful politicians within the Democratic Party. He wanted them to protect him. And according to Vox, CNN, and others, even left-leaning publications stated, yeah, New York prosecutors protected Jeffrey Epp. Okay? That's why he gave money to Democrats, $22,000 to Chuck Schumer. He gave $8,100 to the congresswoman who was texting him, $50,000 to Bill Richardson. Okay, this is money. You had $22,000 from Schumer. This is money, by the way, that they're still keeping. Democratic fundraising committees declined to say whether they will give back the money. He gave $80,000 to the Democratic National Committee. Okay, why did he give that money? He gave that money because he wanted protection because he was committing crimes, and he wanted very powerful people to protect him. The Democrats at that point, where he lived in New York, just like today, Tammany Hall, just like the late 1800s, very powerful. So if this was an issue that Democrats truly cared about, they could have done a lot from the very beginning. House Oversight Chair highlights email sent by Democratic fundraisers to Epp on Hakeem Jeffries' on the behalf of Hakeem Jeffries. So you have Plaskett, Hakeem Jeffries, Larry Summers, who's forced to resign. Let's get to the texting email right now. Hit subscribe. This is huge, ladies and gentlemen.
Narrowly avoiding being censured by her House colleagues. This after revelations she texted with Jeffrey Epstein during a 2019 hearing where Michael Cohen was testifying. Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin coming to her defense.
They want to arraign her on some charges based on a newspaper article.
He goes from, I want full transparency. This is unbelievable, by the way. And to my super chat, thank you. Paul Bartlett, thank you. This is unbelievable, by the way. Congressman Raskin goes from, I want full transparency, to defending a Democratic politician who was literally texting him. This scandal was almost certainly President Trump saying, no, don't want to release anything. Then baiting Democrats into begging for this to be released, knowing very well it's a Democratic Party scandal because he was a Democratic donor wanting protection from Democrats. That's why he gave money. But this is hilarious. This man goes from he wants full transparency to defending a colleague who is literally texting Jeffrey Epp.
That she did something lawful. However ill-advised it may have been, she took a phone call from one of her constituents. They want to give them another headline, which is...
They keep saying that. Is she trying to say that Epp was a constituent because he owned an island? I don't know if that's exactly Okay, they're saying, oh, he was a constituent of Congresswoman Plaskett. Yeah, that's where the criminal activity was. And that's almost certainly where a great many people associated with the donations went, knew about, perhaps engaged in, possibly, potentially. That's the issue. That's why he gave money to Democrats. So you can have not only access, but protection.
Is that they've arraigned a Democratic member for taking a phone call from her constituent, Jeffrey Epstein, in the middle of a hearing. And of course, I don't think there's any rule here against taking phone calls in a hearing.
No, but there is with accepting donations from people who have committed crimes or committing crimes. There are rules regarding that.
House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer joining us now. Congressman, your reaction to all this?
Well, I've said many times, Jamie Raskin's full of crap. He's the definition of congressional hypocrisy. Can you imagine if that were Donald Trump or me or some Republican that Raskin doesn't like that was texting with Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender who the Democrats have now become obsessed over because they hope and pray that he has something to do with Donald Trump. If we were texting with him during a committee hearing, I mean, it's preposterous. Remember, Jamie Raskin appointed Stacey Plaskett to be on the impeachment, to be an impeachment manager of Donald Trump. And here we find out she was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein in a plot to take down Donald Trump. So for Jamie Raskin to try to defend that on the House floor in front of America is par for the course for Jamie Raskin, but it's the definition of hypocrisy.
And Mr. Chairman, you were part of that committee when all of this is going on. Mm-hmm. Delegate Plaskett yesterday defending herself, saying this. Listen.
Now, I heard recently from someone that I was seeking advice from him. Let me tell you something. I don't need to get advice on how to question anybody from any individual. I have been a lawyer for 30 years.
The text messages literally show that he even complimented her. She was asking about President Trump's secretary, who was Rona. She thought it was an acronym. It was the name of a human being. Let's continue.
There she is defending herself, Congressman. Is that satisfactory to you?
I mean, again, can you imagine what she would be saying if Donald Trump was communicating with Jeffrey Epstein, trying to answer a question from Stacey Plaskett? I mean, the hypocrisy is in full display here. For the Democrats to go all in over the last month over release the files. I think one reason they were demanding we release the files is they didn't think that President Trump would release the files or that I would subpoena the estate files.
So almost certainly Trump did this to bait and to lure all of media and all of Democrats into the most epic trap of all time. It's unbelievable because, again, this is a Democratic donor. The issue is a Democratic Party scandal, okay? Republicans obviously should have done more to protect people, but it was Democrats that looked the other way because they were given money. And Bill and Hillary Clinton are refusing to testify in a deposition. They were subpoenaed by Congress. So this is ongoing. Bill and Hillary were not scheduled to testify before Democrats demanded the files. Well, they got the files. Now Larry Summers, President Clinton's Treasury Secretary, just resigned from a prestigious board. Harvard is investigating because he was a former president of Harvard. Hakeem Jeffries has to explain why there was a fundraising email to Jeffrey Epp for him to meet Jeffrey Epp. So this is all a catastrophe. This is worse than the shutdown. Like 10 times worse than the shutdown. Democrats are so obsessed in the most apoplectic, hysterical manner with trying to hurt Trump. Like a moth to a flame, they can't get a political win. Because this is not a scandal with Trump. It's a scandal for Democrats.
What we know about Plaskett and Hakeem Jeffries came from my subpoena of the Epstein estate. And again, the Democrats were demanding that I would do that months ago because they didn't think I would. No one knew what was going to be in the documents. And when we get the documents, lo and behold, there's a bunch of liability for Democrats. And I'm glad that the hypocrisy is on full display. And I don't think those answers are satisfactory.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I want to get to Minority Leader Jeffries in just a second, but specifically with the Plaskett thing, do you see a mixed message here that Democrats have been demanding for accountability, but when it came to holding one of their own accountable, then all of a sudden they had a lack of interest?
Exactly. And look, there's a major player whose name kept popping up in all this new document batch from the Epstein estate, and that's Bill Clinton. But the Democrats haven't said a peep about hearing from Bill Clinton. Remember, you've got two former presidents that, by all accounts, had acquaintances and relationships with Epstein and Maxwell. Now, there's no evidence that shows either one of them has done anything wrong.
So there's no evidence, for the record, there's no evidence that Stacey Plaskett or Hakeem Jeffries or Larry Summers or Bill Clinton or any Democrat did anything wrong. There's no evidence. There's no evidence that any of them did anything criminal. There's no evidence that Hakeem Jeffries did anything criminal. There's no evidence that Stacey Plaskett did anything criminal. There's no evidence Larry Summers or Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton did anything criminal. The question is, why did Jeffrey Epps give money to Democrats, Bill, Hillary, and others? Why? For the love of God, answer that question if you're a morally superior liberal Democrat who just got the files released now. He gave money to gain access, favors, protection. That's why you would give money to a politician. That's why the Uranium One people gave money to the foundation. Democrats are so suspicious of Trump, except they're the ones texting, sending fundraising emails, getting money from Ep, and suddenly it's okay. Jamie Raskin went from what's Trump hiding to defending a congresswoman who was texting him during literally texting Jeffrey Epps.
The Democrats are obsessed about Donald Trump. He's answered hundreds of questions from reporters about his relationship with Epstein. Bill Clinton's never answered a single question. So we're trying to bring Bill Clinton in now, and the Democrats aren't doing a thing to help us. They just want to attack Trump. I don't believe they care about justice for the victims. Their number one priority is to try to hope and pray that there's something damaging about Donald Trump in there.
And we'll see if the former President Clinton decides to sit down for a deposition. But quickly, you did mention Hakeem Jeffries, and your investigation has uncovered a number of emails, one of which appears to suggest that Hakeem Jeffries' campaign was inviting Epstein to a fundraiser. Explain.
So again, what's taking place? This is Congressman Jeffries. Okay, this is a very interesting defense of an email allegedly sent on his behalf. Check it out.
Thank you so much, Leader Jeffries. House Oversight Chairman Comer said yesterday on the floor that you had Jeffrey Epstein over for dinner and took money from him back in 2013. This was after he was on the sex offender list. Any comment on that? And will you be holding members accountable regardless of party affiliation if there were any misdeeds related to the Epstein files?
Was that a serious question or a serious statement from malignant clown James Comer, that I had Jeffrey Epstein over for dinner, that I accepted money from Jeffrey Epstein? What's extraordinary to me about the clown show on the other side of the aisle?
So this is a CNN article. CNN, not a conservative publication. House Oversight Chair highlights email sent by Democratic fundraisers to Ep on Jeffrey's behalf. This is within CNN. The trusted name in news. It was the trusted name. Okay. A CNN article talks about the email. And another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Ep to an event. Okay. And it says sometimes the email reads, sometimes referred to as Brooklyn's Barack, he is a staunch supporter of President Obama and a progressive voice for the people of New York. This is the email that was sent asking for a meeting, or it was a fundraising email. Okay, let's continue.
Is that they lie with impunity on things that are objectively verifiable. And why do they do that? It's because for months, Republicans have been burying the Jeffrey Epstein files.
That was almost certainly a hilarious plot by President Trump, deliberately to get Democrats to vehemently demand every email be released, only to have emails showing that, of course, okay, so the email that was in question doesn't show that Hakeem Jeffries had dinner with Epp. It doesn't show that. It shows a request for Jeffrey Epp, to attend a fundraiser to meet Jeffries. That's what the email allegedly shows. So when Jeffries categorically denies he had dinner, he's potentially lying by omission. Of course, he might not have had dinner, but there was a public relations firm, possibly on his behalf, that emailed Jeffrey Epp for money to attend a fundraiser to meet Hakeem Jeffries. So again, it's like Democrats are now caught within an endless web of lies.
Not Democrats. Our view continues to be the same. We want to make sure that what the survivors have asked for, which is full and complete transparency in order to bring about accountability, actually happens. And Congress decisively and in a bipartisan way acted.
So the transparency is leading to Democrats. Now Jamie Raskin, now others have to defend the actions of Democrats. So again, categorically, Congressman Jeffries, there's no evidence Hakeem Jeffries committed a crime. The problem, however, is that if you want to build suspicion based on association, nobody was associated more with Jeffrey Epp than Democrats who received a tremendous amount. Here's the article in the Washington Times. Okay, here's the article in the Washington Times. And the article asks Jeffrey Epp, give us an email or give us a call if you would like to get involved with the dinner or would like to get an opportunity to know Hakeem better. Representatives of the firm wrote to Epp. He is an impressive guy and will be a progressive voice for New York politics for years to come. So again, this is from the Washington Times. It all leads back. It all leads back to the fact that they wanted money. Democrats they had $139,000 to specific candidates. Then they got $80,000 to the Democratic National Committee. Okay, we're looking at what? Close to $229,000 already. Just add the money to the DNC, and then the $139,000 to specific candidates. Then you get the specific candidates like $50,000 to Bill Richardson. I don't know if that's within the $139,000. $22,000 to Chuck Schumer. I mean, so Trump kicking him out of Mar-a-Lago, stating, yeah, I've heard that you've committed crimes. You're no longer welcomed in Mar-a-Lago. That makes Trump bad? Like, I don't get, like, what? All the money is going to Hillary, Bill, everyone involved. All the Democrats are getting money. They're texting him up until 20. They're asking for literally for dating advice, which is why Larry Summers had to resign from. I mean, it's like unbelievable. They're literally friends with the man. Trump was not. Yet Trump is the one that should have suspicion leveled at him. I don't get it. It's like Democrats can get hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations. They can literally text him. They can seek him out with fundraising emails for more money. They can, they're been accused of protecting him in New York and elsewhere. Raskin is literally stating that Epp was a constituent of Congresswoman Plaskett, I think pointing to the fact that he owned an island. Okay? I mean, you can't make it up. Yeah, that's probably something you don't want to talk about if you're a Democrat, with potentially Democrats being there and potentially committing crimes, possibly, like the Honorable James Comey says, potentially. And by the way, look up whether the entire grand jury needs to see the indictment. Okay, apparently that's another story. It's all public relations from here on out, but there's conspiracy statutes that will be leveled on against everybody. So, I mean, it's like, it's endless. But anyway, hit subscribe if you're new. Check this out.
Yeah, that was one of the text messages that we found in the 23,000 pages of document that we released to the public. Hakeem Jeffries' campaign was soliciting donations from Epstein. They called Hakeem Jeffries.
Again, there's no evidence Hakeem Jeffries, Stacey Plaskett, or Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton did any criminal activity. Oh my God, I'm saying that. There's no evidence that anyone committed criminal acts. There is evidence that the Democrats took hundreds of thousands of dollars from Epp and still communicated with him like in 2019.
The Barack of Brooklyn, and that Hakeem Jeffries could have a private meeting with Epstein if Epstein wanted, but they really wanted his full financial support. Now, again, can you imagine if there were a Republican that were, soliciting money from Jeffrey Epstein at a time when he'd already been convicted as being a sex offender? There would be massive outrage, but instead,
in 2018 and 2019, so for example, they were getting money in 2018. They got $10,000, okay, but they immediately gave it back. But in 2019, Congresswoman Plaskett was texting him. They had already known by 2018 and 2019. And by the way, they're still not giving back the money. So they're keeping that money, okay? But they had already known that he was convicted of the most monstrous, diabolical crimes. They knew this. They still were asking for money, asking for help from him. Okay, so this is only a Democratic Party scandal at this point. Actually, it was always only a Democratic Party scandal. Trump literally kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. One of the emails that Democrats are latching onto said that Jeffrey Epp said that Trump knew of his criminal activity. That's why he was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. It's like, okay, that shows that Trump that shows that Trump heard that he was doing something shady, kicked him out because of his behavior. How on earth is that bad of Trump to literally kick? So Trump kicks Jeffrey Epp out of Mar-a-Lago, and that's suspicious. But they accept hundreds of thousands of dollars and text messages, and that's not suspicious? I don't get the logic.
With Hakeem Jeffries, is like what we're seeing with Stacey Plaskett. The Democrats are defending them. They will defend the indefensible, but go all in on Donald Trump. And again, everything that was disclosed about Trump, the mainstream media tried to make it a big deal. It was nothing that hadn't already been out there.
Jeffrey Epp was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago, didn't like Trump. One of the emails said he was the worst person that he knows. So Democrats, because they have the derangement syndrome, is unbelievable. So you see, even Jeffrey Epp didn't like Trump. It's like, yeah, you don't want to be admired by a criminal deviant like Jeffrey Epp. You don't want to be friends like the way Democrats are friends, right? They're emailing him, asking him for money. You don't want that. You don't want to be associated with people like that. Okay, so Trump is literally not Jeffrey Epp's favorite person. Jeffrey Epp doesn't like him, was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. That shows that Trump was on the right side of history. Democrats, not so much. Almost always in the past 10, 15 years on the wrong side of history. Definitely on the wrong side of history here.
nothing that President Trump hasn't already explained dozens of times to the American people and the national public. This is new information. And the Democrats, they don't even want to inquire about it. They just want to say nothing's wrong here. This is a completely normal text exchange between a convicted sex offender and a member of Congress trying to embarrass the President of the United States. There's nothing wrong with the Jeffries asking Epstein for money, but the Republicans should pay the price because they're not doing enough to seek justice for Epstein. We're going to continue to investigate this the atrocities of Epstein and Maxwell, and we're going to continue to give the American people full transparency. That's what the Oversight Committee is doing, despite the Democrats' effort to score political points by embarrassing Trump.
Well, the American people want transparency, Mr. Chairman. As you continue to investigate, we hope you will continue.
So he goes into great detail now. Check this out. James Comer is awesome.
Democrats, by contrast, have released fewer than 1 dozen. In their latest selective leak, Democrats released just three of the 23,000.
In the typical lie and lie by omission, they released an email that said that Trump was with a victim for several hours at Jeffrey Epps' home. What they didn't realize was, God bless her soul, the person that they redacted was Virginia Gifford, who literally on X stated, hopefully our new president, President Trump. She was a supporter of President Trump, according to that tweet on X. Okay, and literally pointed to Democrats in deposition, along with other victims that pointed to specific Democrats, okay, within depositions pertaining to alleged criminal activity, and also new President Trump. It's within her book, new President Trump from Mar-a-Lago, as did her father, so, or her family. So that's from what I understand of the book. But so there was no, when Democrats said, oh, he was at the house for several hours with an unnamed victim, they were either talking or reminiscing or had nothing to, there was zero criminal activity or activity that, let's say, Democrats would partake in.
Pages of documents from the Epstein estate. And they made redactions to 2 of those emails that changed both the context and the meaning of the 3 pages they released. When CNN called them out for their deceptive redactions, Representatives Stansbury and Crockett tried to blame Republicans for their own edits, for the Democrat Oversight Committee edits. After Democrats released only 3 emails, Republicans released over 23,000 pages. And what did Democrats say in response when we released every single document that we got? They claimed full transparency was meant to, quote, disorient or distract from their manufactured narrative. These are the same Democrats who chant, release the files every day until the files contradict the story they want to tell. That is the definition of hypocrisy. In contrast, full transparency exposed how Epstein appears to be TDS patient zero. The evals reveal a journalist coached Epstein to blackmail then presidential candidate Donald Trump.
There was even one email where they were asking, okay, so one of the people who just resigned, I believe it's his, a former president of Harvard and Treasury Secretary, was emailing Jeffrey Epp and asking if Trump used to how do I say it for he was asking, the Democrat was asking Jeffrey Epp if Trump had taken illegal narcotics and if that could be used in 2016 to disparage his campaign. Then Jeffrey Epp wrote, oh yeah, let's talk about it further, something like that. Okay. Then you have Michael Wolff, the journalist, who tried desperately to find dirt on Trump, of course, to no avail. Trump has to be the cleanest politician of all time. So you have politicians accused of going to the island. Democrats now literally stating, well, he was a constituent. Yeah, you probably don't want to make reference to the island. Okay, I don't get it. But anyway, so you have Democrats who were taking not only money, but texting, asking for dating advice. You can't make it up. You literally cannot make this up. And they were like friends, like legitimately friends with Jeffrey Epps. Whereas Jeffrey Epps doesn't like Trump, so that means you should be suspicious with Trump, who literally didn't like Epps and Epps didn't like him, but Democrats who loved him and accepted his money, that you shouldn't be suspicious then. Okay, good. Now, that makes no sense, but within the Democratic world, it's like they tried desperately to go after Trump, and it all came back against them, and they don't know what to do now.
You have an additional minute to go, Chairman.
The gentleman is recognized.
The files also show that a House Democrat colluded with Epstein during the 2019 oversight hearing to discredit witness with a vendetta against President Trump. And unsurprisingly, Democrats have been silent about their colleagues' coordination with Epstein. Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money.
Again, why did Democrats get $139,000? This is open secrets. $77,000 to John Kerry and others. $139,000. Only $18,000 to Republicans. And they were like the definition of never Trump Republicans, okay? So he gave $139,000 to Democrats. Why? Maybe to be able to text people. Okay? Again, this is not rocket science. Even a wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrat can understand this. Why was he giving $22,000 to Hillary Clinton? Why? Why did he give $1,000? He probably gave a lot more than that, but in a filing in 1992. Why did he give John Kerry money? Okay. Why did he give Chuck Schumer $22,000? I mean, it's not like, could you imagine if you had Trump getting $22,000? Okay. Could you imagine what would Democrats say if Republicans got $139,000? The Republican National Committee, like the Democratic National Committee, got $80,000. I mean, what would they say? They would say, Epps is giving Republicans money for access, for protection, for Republicans to protect his crimes. That's what they would say. Okay? But you're getting Chuck Schumer getting $22,000. Okay? You're not getting Republicans getting $22,000. Why didn't he give so much money to the Republican Party? Oh, because maybe he wanted that either protection or influence that comes with giving political donations. That's the issue here. This is a scandal that is a Democratic Party scandal. It's not a Republican Party scandal.
From Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch.
Could you imagine if Mitch McConnell got $22,000? I'm sorry about the money I received from Jeffrey Epps. $22,000. Again, they're accusing me of taking money. I did not take returned it immediately. Okay, Mitch McConnell would not be given even 1 second by media of grace or understanding. It would be, what does Mitch McConnell know? What does Mitch McConnell know? He accepted $22,000. The $22,000 I received. Mitch McConnell. Could you imagine if Mitch McConnell got $22,000 from Jeffrey Epps? I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine a Republican texting Jeffrey Epps? Anyway, let's continue.
The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance. I support full transparency. The Oversight Committee will continue to work to get the truth to the American people and to get justice for the victims. That's our goal of this investigation. With that, I yield back.
Mr. Speaker. Absent that, I will yield the balance.
No, I mean, look, I'll just reiterate what I said.
Thank you again to my super chat. Thank you. Rick Bartlett, thank you so very much for your support, for watching. Thank you, Rick. Greatly appreciate. Paul, thank you so very, very much as well. Thank you, everybody. Greatly appreciated. Paul, thank you. Rick, thank you. Greatly appreciated, everybody.
Welcome back. The Senate approving a House-passed bill which requires the Justice Department to release all files related to convicted sex offender and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. The bill now heads to the president's desk after being unanimously approved in the Senate. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer issuing subpoenas to J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank for all of Jeffrey Epstein's financial records. The chairman also requesting additional documents from U.S. Virgin Islands Attorney General Gordon Rea. Joining me now is the man himself, Kentucky Congressman, chairman of the House Oversight.
Again, it's so bizarre that Democrats keep calling him a constituent. Yes, if he owned land in the Virgin Islands, this is potentially where all the criminal activity took place. Why keep calling this man a constituent? He's a monster who happened to own real estate, perhaps in a jurisdiction or, an area that a Democrat is, representing in Congress. But it's like, it's not like a constituent you're calling up like, oh, well, why are my taxes too high? It's like, no, and not really a constituent like that. Sorry, that's bizarre. You're trying again. It's smoke and mirrors, and it's pointing back to them. They don't know what to do. The Democrats don't know what to do because it's all money that they accepted, and it's all money they accepted for political favors and all of that. Okay, you think Jeffrey Epp was evil, but you think he's stupid?
Committee, James Comer. Mr. Chairman, good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So what are you looking for? And tell me what you expect, how this plays out.
Well, we really don't know. We're going to follow the money. That's what we've been instructed to do. This is a very serious, credible investigation. We want to know the truth. We want to give the American people answers. If there's a list of people who were participating in sex trafficking, we want to know who they are, and we want to hold them accountable. We want to find justice for the victims, as well as to try to find out why the government failed so many people. So I think with the bank records, we'll be able to find accounts, we'll be able to trace the money and determine if there.
The Republicans now, Pam Bondi, because Democrats fell into a trap by Trump. Where did he hold? So Jeffrey Epp, okay, hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, what accounts what banks did he use? Okay. What bank accounts did the Democratic National Committee, or these, Democrats like Bill Clinton or whatever, Chuck Schumer, well, where do they accept the money? They have their political campaigns situated in which banks? Okay, now they're going to find out exactly when and where the donations came from, went to, and anything else associated. I mean, you'll probably, who knows, but God, heaven forbid you find out that a Democrat was on his yacht. Oh, there's nothing. Then they respond, oh, it's not against the law to be on a yacht, is it? And it's like, oh my God, you don't get it. The whole thing was suspicion, guilt by association. There's no greater association with Jeffrey Epp than Democrats who gave him money. Why would you give anyone money? Why would you give a politician money? Why? Because you just like the politician's haircut or what they're wearing? Why? Democrats obtain, you talk about Harvey Weinstein, Hollywood. Okay, Democrats obtain donations from Bernie Sanders supporters, then use it to buy a Steele dossier. And 10 years later, they get indicted for conspiracy statutes. But again, private servers, Clinton had private servers with top secret intel illegally transferred on, impossible from a cybersecurity perspective. Why did 50 intelligence officials lie about Hunter's laptop? Bribery and graft, almost certainly. Why did Clinton use servers to hide political donations? Almost certainly. With the foundation, almost certainly. Okay, you can't say definitely because it's so outlandish and absurd. Private servers, texting, Jeffrey Epp. The whole thing is so outlandish. But again, it's pretty obvious when you look at what's going on.
There were people that were paying Jeffrey Epstein for services, or if Jeffrey Epstein was paying and purchasing women in other countries or wherever. I mean, these are some of the worst crimes I've ever seen inflicted on young women, and it just doesn't seem like the federal government over the past 2 decades did anything to help these victims.
You know, I don't think it's lost on anybody that here you have banks potentially involved in, enabling this sex offender, and yet who did they debank in 2020?
Yeah,
Donald Trump.
Right.
Why are you not investing?
My goodness.
By all accounts, the banks were notifying the government. The banks suspected that this type of activity was taking place with Epstein, by all accounts. So, we're gonna try to determine what the banks knew. But the banks did what they're supposed to do. If they filed those suspicious activity reports, then it's up to the federal government to.
The Bidens had like 50 plus suspicious activity reports, and nothing happened. I think it was like 50 to 100, something like that. So the suspicious activity reports obviously point to, massive, corruption. That's the point. If Jeffrey Epps gives money in a city run by Democrats, let's say New York City, there's a suspicious activity report. Oh, gee, nothing takes place. Just like Democrats in New York investigated the Clinton Foundation for 2 seconds. Oh, we can't find anything. Can't find anything. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, that's why you give donations almost certainly, because if a person engages in criminal behavior, the political donations almost certainly help them circumvent legal or criminal repercussions. This isn't rocket science. You think Jeffrey Epps was an evil monster? He wasn't stupid. He's not just going to give money for no reason. And he gave money to Democrats for specific reasons.
Follow through. So there are many steps along the way where I believe these women, these victims or survivors, whatever you want to say, they were let down by the federal government. The federal government didn't do its job in protecting people, in identifying criminal activity and doing something about it.
In 2013, you have allegedly Hakeem Jeffries and Democrats asking him for money. In 2013, this is years after he was arrested and all of that, because he was incarcerated in 2008. Okay, initially, I believe, or arrested in 2008. So they knew about this. That's why the federal government did nothing. Okay, that's why you have a former president of Harvard resigning, okay, from this prestigious board now, because he's implicated also. Well, not implicated, but there's no evidence that Larry Summers did anything criminal, but he's resigning now because the emails showed that he was asking for dating advice and whether Trump was taking a certain substance, that they could use against him in 2016. I mean, it's like unbelievable. You can't make it up. It's so outlandish.
Do you have a read on how many suspicious transactions took place at these banks?
Yeah, there were hundreds and hundreds of them. But again, Epstein was a big operator. I mean, you look at his estate; it's worth nearly $1 billion. So he had a lot of financial activity. We don't know a lot. All we know is he's a financier. When we get these bank records, we'll do like we did in the Biden investigation. We'll be able to follow the money. We'll be able to identify different LLCs and different corporations to see where his money was coming from and where it was going.
Are we going to see the client list?
I don't think there's an actual Epstein list, but if we're able to follow the money, maybe we can construct a list.
I see. Meanwhile, Attorney General Pam Bondi's office is reviewing all of the pardons signed by former President Joe Biden's auto pen. Mm-hmm. And this following your committee's report, which argued that any executive
So the Clintons they don't want to testify, and there's like a 99% chance that they'll do everything possible. They'll delay the testimony because before Democrats were clamoring because they're so moral and wonderful and morally superior, and they said, how come we haven't released those files? And then we find out, all the money is he gave all his money to Democrats, and they're texting him and they're asking him for fundraising up in 2013, and people are now resigning, and it's a complete catastrophe. Like it's a political miscalculation of epic proportions. But the Clintons, because of all this, were now in a bipartisan congressional vote, demanded to testify. They were given a subpoena to testify about this because Bill Clinton didn't have a plane. Trump had a plane. Yet another reason not to be suspicious of Trump, but somehow Trump is, just as bad. Bill Clinton has been accused of allegedly going on that plane many, many times and going on that piece of real estate that makes Jeffrey Epp a constituent of one of the Democrats. He was a constituent. Jamie Raskin, he was a constituent. And yeah, that's where all the criminal activity took place. Why are you bringing up that island? But anyway, they don't want to testify. She'll get indicted, almost certainly, Hillary, for the Steele dossier under conspiracy statutes emanating from the Florida grand jury, and then run for president. Still won't testify. And then if Trump says, okay, you're arrested, she'll say, oh my God, I'm running for president. But anyway, let's continue.
My next guest has been pushing for answers.
Arrested for ignoring the subpoena. Okay, so they went after Bannon and Peter Navarro, arrested both of them. The Clintons now risk that. It's really interesting to see how they circumvent testifying.
On the Clintons, pointing out on X, Bill and Hillary Clinton are refusing to appear before House oversight.
So you're never going to see this on MSNBC or MS Now or whatever the new name is after the first venture failed. So you'll never see that. You'll never see this photo. You'll never see this photo on any liberal publication or progressive publication. You will never see this photo. Okay. But you have Maxwell there, Jeffrey Epp, and Bill Clinton. Okay, this is why a person like Jeffrey Epp gives all that money to Democrats, okay, for access in addition to protection.
For their depositions regarding Jeffrey Epstein. Notice how House Democrats suddenly have nothing to say about it. Joining me now, Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Congresswoman, thank you for being with us here today. Let's talk about Bill Clinton. For all the talk regarding Jeffrey Epstein, so much of it in many corners focuses on President Trump. But it's not President Trump who had a painting in Jeffrey Epstein's house wearing a dress and high heels. It's not President Trump who'd been to the island. It's not President Trump who's littered throughout the emails by others talking about, hey, Jeff, I saw your boy at Davos. Why are we not talking about Bill Clinton?
Well, I think it's important to note that even from the beginning of my task force in January of this year, I was really pushing to figure out what the deal was with these documents. And in around February timeframe, I was made aware by a whistleblower, of which I have since reported this to the FBI. And it was actually the only outlet in the country that would report on our findings was Fox News. We had actually reported that we were made aware of a whistleblower that under the former deputy director of the FBI, so under Biden's FBI, there was destruction of evidence specifically pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein and potential evidence tampering. I think that that's pretty important to note because
Why would Biden's FBI destroy evidence pertaining to Epp? Why would... Oh, that's right. Because he gave $139,000 to Democrats. And you have one Democrat literally texting him in 2019. And you have, oh, that's right, $80,000 to the Democratic National Committee. We can go on forever. Well, maybe that's why. Possibly. It's potentially, like the Honorable James Comey says, potentially.
Went public with this, and not one member of Congress, really for the most part, a majority of Republicans weren't even tracking that. But for those that were trying to use this to smear the president, notice how they never made a mention of that. As we continued in our investigations, I've gone to every potential meeting with these victims. I sat in the same room where the victims exonerated President Trump and said that they simply want access to their files that they had requested from the DOJ under Biden and were denied access to. I can tell you that this administration has released over 50,000 files. Remember, Democrats tried to...
The depositions that have been released thus far from victims implicate Democrats. I'm not going to name who, in particular, but they implicate Democrats. None of the depositions that have been released implicate Trump in any way, shape, or form. Okay, this is not a Trump scandal. You can try to make the hilarious thing is that media, wonderful, morally superior, liberal, or progressive, or left-leaning pundits or Democratic Party pundits will say, "What does Trump have to hide?" It's like, well, Trump didn't receive money. Democrats, as always, received endless campaign donations from Jeffrey Epps, literally texting Jeffrey Epps, literally asking for dating advice. And it's all pointing back to, and then you have Biden's FBI now destroying records related to Jeffrey Epps. And the question is, why do Democrats have such association? Where's the suspicion from Jamie Raskin and others, or liberal pundits, or where's the suspicion? So if Trump was texting him, if Trump accepted money, if Trump didn't have a plane and used his plane, would there be suspicion against Trump? He's not even implicated in anything. He never took any money, Trump. He wasn't even friends with Epps. And still they're suspicious of Trump because of the derangement syndrome. But if the tables were reversed, I mean, they'd be losing their minds now.
To selectively pick and choose emails to, again, try to smear the president. Notice how they didn't put the Jeffrey Epstein email in there that talked about how much he hated the president. And you even had one of their own actively engaging in communication with this pedophile, not to try to get justice for the victims or justice for the children, but to try to smear the president. And so I've said this from the get-go, the president hasn't changed his position. Any single person in the country, if you were being accused of being a convicted sex trafficker and pedophile, you would obviously be upset too. The president has pushed for transparency. I have frankly had many members' conversations about this, and I think what we're mostly disgusted about is that this entire time, it does seem that this has been only used to smear the president. Now, he actually said the other day, go ahead and release the files. I think it was on Friday he started saying that. He reiterated the Truth Social statement, but ultimately at the end of the day, I don't want people to get distracted from the facts here, and the facts is that Jeffrey Epstein was a bad person. We obviously have been made aware, Congress has as a whole, you guys did the article yourselves on it, that there was potential destruction of evidence and evidence tampering. Now, I ask you, why under a former administration that's Democrat run that was already targeting the president, why would you ever want to destroy evidence?
They destroyed laptops with hammers, of cell phones with hammers. Oh my God, they love destroying evidence. It's like a pastime of the wonderful, morally superior Democrats. Clinton, during the email probe 10 years ago, which is still relevant today because of the grand jury in Florida that will level conspiracy statutes against Clinton and others, Comey, Brennan, all these people. These are different. That's different from perjury. Okay, but anyway, they destroyed all the evidence that in the Comey that I couldn't find intent as they're literally breaking cell phones with hammers. The Hunter laptop was interesting. They said initially it wasn't his laptop. Then they said it was Russian disinformation, which they lied about. Then they had to admit it's an actual legitimate laptop. So I don't know if that counts as destroying evidence, but they tried to say the evidence didn't exist. And we can go on forever. I mean, again, all of this is completely outlandish. Now we have evidence being destroyed pertaining to Jeffrey Epps because he was a Democratic Party donor.
Why would you ever want to tamper with evidence? And this is publicly known to be happening at the FBI during the transition. So that's a huge problem and signifies a bigger issue here.
Yeah, if that evidence implicated President Trump. However, if that evidence implicated other sympathetic figures to the previous administration, I think we have the answer to your question. Quickly, because I want to cover one other thing with you here today, Congresswoman, but perhaps you're most well suited to answer the question that I asked yesterday. Why? Why did so many high-profile figures continue to consort with Jeffrey Epstein after his 2008 conviction for soliciting an underage minor? Why, from every academic walk of life, from finance to politics to entertainment, did so many people turn to Jeffrey Epstein to ask him questions about their life, their business, to be his friend?
Jeffrey Epstein was a master manipulator. We've heard this not just from the victims, but it's very evident in how he handled and manipulated politicians as well as world leaders. I believe that his immense wealth lured people in, kind of how a bug is lured to a bug zapper. And ultimately, I do believe that there's an aspect to Jeffrey Epstein that involves foreign intelligence. But make no mistake, if it was American intelligence, we would have had some form of file on him that existed at the CIA. And to my knowledge, that doesn't exist. The fact is that Jeffrey Epstein was running an operation where he was collecting information on people, which is why they try to smear the president. But we know that Mr. President is clean, and he's the most investigated man in U.S. history, and definitely.
Trump is the cleanest. He has to be the purest or cleanest or whatever you want to. Because he took power away from Democrats, he's like, the embodiment of evil to them. But see, Trump never had to have private servers. He never had to have a laptop full of graft. He never needed to take money from people like Jeffrey Epps. He was investigated, spied on from day one. You can see the emails where they're literally asking, from Michael Wolff to Larry Summers, what do we have on this guy? What can we do? Does he have, do you have any information on Trump? Nobody has any information on Trump. They literally had to purchase a dossier. The Democrats have had, and he was in New York his whole life, Trump. They had 30 years of public record, they had 30 years to compile, dirt on Trump. They spied on his campaign from day one in 2015, 2016, up until, then there was an attempt on his life. We can go on forever. They tried so desperately to tarnish and disparage Trump, and the only thing they could get was a Steele dossier that they literally purchased. They had nothing on him. Then they went from that to release the files, and now all the files point to them. All the files point to them. People are resigning. They're having to defend text messages, defending fundraising emails. All the files point to them. And it's like, there's nowhere to turn now. Eventually, modern Democrats will have to realize that maybe they're the baddies. Just like the old, skit. Maybe they're not the good people. Because modern day Democrats believe that they're on the right side of history. They disown friends and family because of, politics. And they're, I can't believe you like Trump. And it's like, no, I can't believe that you are so ignorant pertaining to all the corruption within your own political party. But it's like, there are really good, beautiful people who are Democrats. And I'm serious about this, who just don't know information about how corrupt their political side is. They don't know. They see lies by omission. They see what they want to see because of cognitive dissonance. But all the spying that took place against Trump, if you had all of that spying against Democrats, Lord knows what you would find. My God, they couldn't even type an email without a calamity 10 years ago, or have a laptop, without, endless 50 intel officials and social media algorithms of 5 years ago. Well, let's continue.
I'm frankly glad that those emails came out because it proved exactly what we've been saying the whole time.
All right, so listen up. State Farm was trying to
clear, there's a lot of wealthy financiers from New York. There's a lot of people connected politically. Very few of them seem to have the deep relationship he had in all walks of life. Your answer to me as to why suggests the distinguishing factor with Jeffrey Epstein from your other politically connected wealthy individuals is that you believe he's also connected to foreign intelligence, that he was using that as an operation to compromise individuals in the United States.
I think that's very likely. Very likely.
Yes.
What specifically, who's he work for, Jeffrey Epstein?
I had asked the victim attorney representation directly in front of all of House Oversight and the Speaker of the House if, to their knowledge, he had information or if he was involved with a foreign government. And they said that he was actively in communication at the time while he was under arrest with a former director of the CIA, so different administration, not Trump's administration, but different administration, and that they had heard / had potentially knowledge that he was involved with Israel, Iran, and Russia.
And directly communicating with them while he was under arrest,
correct.
You said?
That he had communications with foreign intelligence, correct? That he was directly communicating via his bodyguard through notes with the former director of the CIA. And this is, mind you, not during the Trump administration, but when he was first on house arrest. So I believe it was actually under the Bush CIA director.
And to be clear, Congresswoman, you're getting this information from where?
from the victims' attorneys. And they actually told all of this to House Oversight, so Democrats, Republicans, and the Speaker of the House.
So from victims' attorneys that Jeffrey Epstein is connected in the manner that you're talking about.
So again, the same never Trump Republicans, the Bush era Republicans, the Democrats getting the money. It's that political system. Mainly, he's a Democratic donor, but that political system, including Republicans, or that the political system that wanted Trump out of the picture is the political system that protected Jeffrey Ep. So that's interesting.
To foreign intelligence services.
Correct.
Okay, and just to be clear, because you've significantly piqued my curiosity here. How would the victims' attorneys have access to that information of Jeffrey Epstein's foreign intelligence connections?
I actually had asked them where their main source was, and one of them was from his bodyguard, who, to my knowledge, is still alive today. Also, the victims did see a lot of information, but at the time when I answered this, or when I asked this question in front of everyone, it was the attorney answering, not the victims directly. So,
and Congresswoman, what's the name of that bodyguard?
I don't have I have it written down in my notes, but I don't have the name off the top of my head. But he's, to my knowledge, still alive, because I actually asked that question for follow-up on the investigation. Yeah,
that'd be a great source to follow up with then for this information.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new, hit subscribe to this channel. Go to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now and subscribe there to my super chat. Thank you. Look, this is not a Trump scandal. It never was. It never was. This is a scandal that now Democrats have to deal with. It's the typical, when you are so obsessed with trying to ruin Trump, the Democrats didn't realize that they didn't realize that Jeffrey Ep was a Democratic donor. He was a Democratic donor, gave $139,000 to Democrats. The Democratic National Committee got $80,000. Why? Ep gave more than $80,000 to the Democratic National Committee and Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. Why did he do this? Why did he give the money? Does that question lead to possible suspicion? If a person is saying that, what does Trump have to hide? He didn't release the emails. And then, like, the emails are released and it points to Democrats. Does that person say, well, why did the Democratic National Committee accept $80,000? And it's not just $80,000. It's in 2013, a top Democrat, the fundraising firm sent an email allegedly on his behalf in 2013. In 2019, asking for money. In 2019, you have a top Democrat literally texting him. I mean, you can't make this up. And so that's why he gave $22,000 to Chuck Schumer and others, according to ABC News. That's why. Okay. He was powerful because of the money he gave. He was protected politically from criminal repercussions, from prosecution for so many years. Eventually, his crimes caught up to him. But he was able to evade capture for so long, committing crimes, because he gave all that money. That's why you give money. That's why he gave money to Democrats, because the Democrats, he knew, would protect him almost certainly. Okay. $20,000 to Hillary Clinton, and then money to Bill Clinton, and then money to Chuck Schumer. But this is a Trump scandal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then $80,000 to the Democratic National Committee, but it's a Trump scandal? Yeah, okay. Anyway, God bless you all. Hit subscribe. Again, there's a lot of really good there are really wonderful, beautiful, amazing human beings who are Democrats, Republicans. It's not a matter of, it's a matter of if tribalism, if you are so obsessed with despising Trump that you can't see this is a Democratic scandal, just look at where the money, just ask the question, why did he give so much money? Why did he give $22,000 to Chuck Schumer and $20,000 to Hillary Clinton and others? $139,000 to Democrats. 77 to a whole bunch of others. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. If you're new, thank you so much. By the way, this is an Open Secrets article. This is an ABC News article. This is a CNBC article. This is a Washington Times article. This is an article in the New York Sun. Hit subscribe, everybody. See you tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.